Hey everyone, it's Nicole. Today I'm here to finally wrap up the reading month of June. I know I'm seriously late with this video, but I started a new job and it takes a lot of my time and I couldn't force myself to sit and film for a while because of it. It's a lot of stress, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, and I'm a little bit not on schedule yet at the moment because I don't know how to include my hobbies into a full-time job yet. I've been working full-time always in the past, but there's been a little gap and now I have to get used to not having time again. So it's a process. I've read 5 books in June, which is an A-okay result. I didn't read as much in July, so you might have July and August wrap-up mashed together, like I did in the past. Without further ado, let's get into the books that I've read. The first book is Wild by Cheryl Strayed. I didn't want to actually pick it up because I've seen the movie a couple of times and it happens often with me. When I see the movie, I don't really want to read the book. I want to consume the storyline one or the other way, and I don't have the time to read and see the movie. But then I rewatched Wild with my mom and I had an urge to read the book. I've read Her Advice by Dear Sherry. It's also non-fiction, it's great, one of my favorite books actually. So I thought it's not going to be bad either way, and I love her older voice. So I've read Wild and I loved it. It's a beautiful book, it's a documented journey. It's not just journaling, it's a very self-aware novel. So when I encounter a book like this, where every element makes sense, I can only think of how much self-reflection Cheryl Strayed had to do to write it. And the only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is because it's a very tough journey, and part of it I already knew because I watched the movie, so it took away a little bit from my enjoyment. And also, as I said, I'm a pretty positive person, so reading about struggling is not easy for me. I realize that it's a human experience. People go through tough times and it's important to document it, but at the same time I can read it once, I can enjoy it, but then I don't see value in rereading it, personally, for me. Then I picked up a pretty hyped up book. It's Every Heart a Doorway by Shonda McGuire and the LGBTQ corner of BookTube, which I am happy I'm a part of. We're hyping up this book so much for me. I read it and I loved it. I think it's great, I think it's something new, and I really had a great time reading it. It's about kids that travel to different dimensions through magical doors, and then they were kicked out of their dimensions back to reality, and now they can't find the doors. So these kids are plucked out of their houses and brought to a special school called a School for Wayward Children, where they get help. But it seems to be a hopeless case because these kids still want to get to their dimensions because they consider it home, and their doors disappeared. I found the whole thing very enjoyable, I binge read it, and I know that there are a few other books in the series, but I'm not sure that I want to read them because I've read the summaries, and it's not going to follow the main story, the story that started in the first book. It's going to be prequels to these characters' stories. I am pretty passionate about some of the characters, so I might pick it up, but I'm not sure about it. Moving on to Santino Hassel. You remember how I was praising his work in the last couple of videos? In the recent videos, actually. I just found him. He's a writer that does romances. His work is also on voices, which is great. I'm always looking for more own voices novels, and it's romance novels done by men. So I was excited and I wasn't disappointed. I picked up his other series though, called Cyberlove, that he writes with a co-author named Megan Erickson, and I hated it. I hated it. I love Five Boroughs and I'm going to continue to love it, but I'm not sure about Cyberlove. The summary sounds gripping and something that I would like to read, but when I started it was mwah mwah. not so great. It's about a guy that is signed with army. He is currently in a red zone. Are they called red zones? Tell me in the comments down below. I think they are. And he really loves gaming because it's the only way he can just forget for a minute what is happening around him. He does a lot of gaming, he's very passionate about it, and then he encounters a different player in the game and they have a fight. He gets pissed off and he starts asking people about him, and he realizes that this guy that he met in the game is a very popular gamer that has a stream that he can watch. He starts watching his stream, he realizes that this guy is pretty cool and that he's pretty curious about him, not only in terms of gaming world but also on a personal level. So they start talking through emails and eventually get close. I know it sounds good, and there are a few elements included in the story that I think enriches it. For example, the romantic interest has anxiety and it is well described. But the reason why I didn't like this book is because it's lazy. These guys hate each other at the start and they become friends and more than friends. So early into the book it's annoying. I wasn't impressed with this story. I had to force myself to finish it. I will maybe pick up other books in the series because they are all pretty much standalone, so if you think about it. They just have to do with the same topic and we'll see what's going to happen. Maybe they are better. And then I finally finished reading this. It's been some time since I started it and I didn't have the time to dedicate to it. It's a pretty fat tome. Sarah Waters' novels are pretty thick in writing. I love it, don't get me wrong, I love her writing style. I really enjoy it, but it takes a lot of time. So I only read it on the weekends or on the day offs and it took me a bunch of time. I loved it though. Sarah Waters has yet to write a book that is going to disappoint me. It's very slow, thoughtful. It's set in 1922 in London and follows Mrs. Rye and her daughter Frances. They are bankrupt and they need to take tenants into their house so they can pay the bills. So they take this young couple, Leonard and Lillian, into their house. Frances and Lillian's friendship blossoms and turns into something more. It's a very complex story about marriage, and especially marriage of that time period. This couple got together because society and their relatives put some pressure on them. They would have never been together otherwise. So it's a very interesting discussion from this point, but there are also a few other elements in this book that are very interesting to me. Sarah Waters doesn't disappoint me ever, so I was enjoying the book the whole time. The last book was provided to me in exchange for an honest review by Tor Publishing. It is Amber Low by Lara Lena Donnelly. I've seen it on a couple of other channels, but I didn't receive the same reaction from them that I've got because I absolutely loved the book. I loved it the moment I started it. I think it was so well written, it is so entertaining, the world building is amazing. It is inspired by 1940s Germany and it talks a lot about freedom in general, but also specifically the freedom of arts. I loved it. I especially loved the characters. All the characters in this book were so amazing and distinct, and I could really imagine them from the descriptions. I think the world itself was very vivid, and actually when I started reading it, I could see it as a movie. I imagined for some reason the Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, I think because of the Ministry. This book follows a few characters and one of them is Cyril, who works for the government as a spy. I can't even tell you how much I love the book because there are so many things that I want to discuss and most of them are spoilers. And I don't spoil people in my wrap-up, so I can't really discuss it. But I will say that if you are looking for a very good fantasy novel that will include gay characters and also will have to do with espionage, this is it. This book is a very interesting blend of things. Part of it is set in the government bureaucratic offices and part of it is set in theater. When these two things mesh together, it gives a very interesting result. I just loved it so freaking much. I think It is such a great novel. I don't know if there's going to be any continuation, but I feel like there might be, even though the ending is pretty final and it can be left like that. Still, loved it. Loved it. If you read this book, please talk to me in the comments down below, because it doesn't seem to be this popular and I'm mad about it because I loved it. How many times I have to say that I loved it so you will read it? It's not a rhetorical question. I actually want to see the answers in the comments because I need you to read it. I'm not paid for it. I just needed to read it because it's great. It's actually great. That's everything that I've read in June. I hope you had a great month in June and you have a great reading month in July. I don't, but whatever, it happens. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you soon in my next one. Bye!